In Minecraft, end cities come in all shapes and sizes, but have you ever wondered what's the biggest one of all time? Well, in 2021, a seed finder called Cortex had the same question, and so he used code to find this seed, where an end city generated with 31 different rooms connected by 19 pathways. This truly feels like a lost civilization, and it would be cool if more end cities were big like this, because it feels almost mystical walking through here. I couldn't find a lot of details about how rare this is, but the fact that you need to travel almost 30 million blocks on each axis to find it means it's a one-of-a-kind anomaly. And in this video, we're going to uncover some more rare anomalies in Minecraft. There's a lot to see, so sit back and let's continue with the next anomaly that was also found in the end dimension. The average main end island is about 600,000 to 1 million end stone in size, but earlier this year, a well-known seed finder named DamDuck wanted to find the biggest one possible, and so he used his coding knowledge to search through about 700 million seeds, until he found this one. This seed has an end island with almost 2.3 million blocks of end stone, with its surface having almost 60,000 blocks, and stretching 300 blocks across each side. But if you want the island with the most surface blocks, then it's this one, with almost 63,000 blocks on the surface, but it's slightly smaller overall, with 2.2 million blocks in volume. And DamDuck said that end islands get exponentially rarer the bigger they are, with about 1 in every 10,000 islands having around 1.8 to 2 million blocks, but anything bigger than that is much more rare. But anyway, now let's head to the overworld, because I want to show you one of the strangest anomalies ever discovered. When you think of spawner rooms, you usually think of a standard dungeon with a single spawner and maybe 1 or 2 chests, and in rare cases you can even find a couple of spawners near each other. However, earlier this month, a seed finder called Kris discovered a seed with the rarest spawner room of all time. This room generated in such a way that it has 6 perfectly aligned spawners in a row, as well as 11 chests. And because of its extreme rarity, I brought in Kris to explain what's going on here.
Each dungeon in Minecraft needs to have a couple of air columns in its future walls to generate successfully, but each dungeon also creates air, which can let other dungeons generate, and so on, producing these cool looking spawner chains. Because of Minecraft's internal limits, you can get at most 3 dungeons aligned like this in a single chunk. So to find the 6th dungeon seed, I had to tile 2 such chunks together, making sure they would form a perfect line. In total, the seed took me around 30 hours of work to find. It turned out to be so rare that I only found 1 working result across all worlds and all coordinates. If you want to know more about how I found this, you can check out my video in the description. Thank you.
And one last thing, the fact that this is located tens of millions of blocks away from spawn means that even if someone played on this seed, they'd never come across it. But just imagine you were mining and found this. It feels unnatural in a way, like someone made this by hand. If I gave you a Minecraft seed and told you to open any chest, you'd always get the same loot on the same seed. This happens because every chest has its own unique loot seed. So for example, in this random world seed, if you open this buried treasure, the loot will always be the same every time. But earlier this month, I got a message from a Discord user named Xime, and he told me that a seed finder called ExeRSolver discovered a chest where this isn't the case. If you load this seed and open the nearest buried treasure, you'll find that the loot changes every time you open it. He said this happens because this chest has a loot seed of 0, which shouldn't be possible, and so the game chooses a random loot seed every time. And if you want to know how rare this is, Xime said it's a 1 out of 2 to the power 48 chance, meaning that even if you check the closest 1 million chests from spawn, then it's still only a 1 in 281 million chance that one of them will be like this. But Xime also told me about another anomaly involving a different chest. On this seed, there's a certain blacksmith, which depending on the chunk loading order, can generate 2 different sets of loot, and this was found by another player named Zelario. Xime said this happens because of the chunk generation order. Hay bales and chest loot seeds use the same RNG calls, and path blocks in one chunk can impact hay bale placements in a different chunk, so the hay bale placements depend on which chunks generate first. So the RNG calls will be different depending on how you load it. And what's even crazier is that this seed also has a glitched end portal at these coordinates due to a chunk border. As for how rare this is, Xime said he doesn't know the odds, but it seems to be extremely rare. In update 1.12, every seed had the exact same bedrock pattern at the bottom of the world, with the highest layer of bedrock being at Y5. But because the bedrock pattern is random, it means that some areas of the world have more bedrock than others. So in 2021, a Discord user named Tiger wanted to find the biggest cluster of bedrock that exists at Y5, and he developed a program that searched the entire bedrock level of every world on 1.12, and after scanning 3.6 quadrillion blocks, which took him about 300 hours with his graphics card, he found this location. If you go on any world on 1.12 and teleport to these coordinates, you'll find a 64 bedrock cluster at Y5, which is the biggest connected bedrock vein in the world. And the fact that this is 22 million blocks away from spawn and that you have to dig it out means that no one in history would have ever found this randomly, which makes me wonder how Tiger even thought of finding something like this. I guess some mysteries will remain unsolved. You may not know this, but ever since update 1.20, mob and item drops are no longer random events, but are dependent on the world seed, meaning that the loot you get from breaking certain blocks and killing mobs will be the same if you use the same seed. And if you load in this seed and head to the oak tree, you'll find something unnaturally rare. It looks completely normal, but if you break a leaf, you'll notice that it drops the rarest possible loot of 2 sticks and an apple, which is a 0.01% chance. But break the next one, and you'll get an apple, and the next one will give you another apple, and even the one after that will give you an apple. Now break one more and you'll get a sapling. This may seem like nothing, but the seed finder who discovered this seed, called Fragrant Result 186, calculated it to be a 0.103125% chance of getting these leaf drops in a row. And what's crazy is I actually talked about the theoretical chance of something like this happening in a previous video, but I never could have imagined someone would actually find something like this. But that's not the only rare thing Fragrant Result found recently, as we'll see throughout the video. Pumpkin patches in Minecraft usually generate with around 10 to 15 pumpkins, and in the past, some people have discovered abnormally large ones by multiple patches spawning in the same area. But Fragrant Result did a seed hunt on Bedrock Edition and found this seed, where right at spawn there's a pumpkin patch with 70 pumpkins, making it the biggest one in all of Minecraft. And I'm not sure how many separate patches are combined to make this, but it seems to be at least 4 or 5. Also, an interesting fact, did you know that pumpkins are rarer than diamonds because they require harder conditions for them to generate? But anyway, let's move on to the next anomaly, which surprisingly wasn't found by a seed finder, but a normal player. Earlier this month, a Discord user named Serbia randomly came across one of the strangest villages in Minecraft. If you go on this seed, you'll find a ghost village that has no houses at all. This is rare by itself, but you'll also notice there's cobwebs, meaning this is an abandoned village as well. And the fact that this is both abandoned and has no houses at all makes it the most abandoned village in Minecraft, since the villagers even abandoned building any houses. And this might also be one of the most mismanaged farm systems ever, since there's broken farms with water flowing everywhere. And as I mentioned, Serbia used no code to find this, which is very unusual. And when seed finders found out about this, they were surprised he found it as well, because the more paths a village has, the more likely that houses will generate. And savanna villages are more branched out than normal villages, meaning it's much harder for them to have no houses at all. And with a 2% chance of this being abandoned as well, makes it incredibly rare. This next anomaly is about the rarest fishing catch in Minecraft, and I mentioned this in a different video a while back, but I feel like it's rare enough to add as an anomaly as well. Now, if you look at the loot table for fishing, you'd think the rarest catch possible is a 0.1% chance to catch 10 ink sacs at once. But what if I told you there's a chance to catch something so rare that no one's ever caught it before? The item I'm talking about is an enchanted book, but not just any enchanted book, because those aren't too rare. The true rarest fishing catch in Minecraft is the enchanted book with the most possible enchantments on it. So how do we even know the limit on how many enchantments a book can have? Well, some months ago, I asked the only person I could think of that could answer that, the seed finder Kris. For context, other than the rarest dungeon, Kris has used his coding knowledge to find some insane things in Minecraft over the years, such as a stronghold chest with a book that has 11 enchantments on it. So if there was one person who knew Minecraft's code well enough to find the rarest book from fishing, it was Kris. And when I asked Kris about this, he told me that enchanted enchanted books from fishing work similarly to enchanted books from stronghold chests, meaning that the books get a random level 30 enchantment with no limit to the number of enchantments. But it gets exponentially rarer to find books with stacked enchantments. That means that theoretically an enchanted book could exist with a crazy amount of enchantments. But the question was, how many enchantments is the limit? And what are the chances of you catching this? Well, luckily Kris had an answer to that. How a fishing rod determines what enchantments you get on a book is determined by loot seeds. So Kris ran his code to search through every single possible loot seed for fishing in Minecraft. And what he found was that out of all the loot seeds that exist for fishing, there's only one that can pull an enchanted book with 12 enchantments on it. Kris confirms that this book does exist, but there's only a 1 out of 2 to the power of 48 chance to catch it while fishing. And that's only by using a fishing rod with luck of the sea 2 and in a version below 1.18. Because after that update, loot seeds for fishing were changed to a completely random draw directly from the loot table. But one interesting fact I want to add about this is that after update 1.20, fishing catches are world seed dependent, just like leaf drops. So it may be possible for a seed finder to search for a world seed that gives you this loot after all. Now let's move on to the next anomaly, which is one of the most abnormal spawn points of all time. If you didn't know, since update 1.21.4, Mojang patched spawn immunity on Java Edition, meaning you can't just relog and be invincible in lava. So Dylan DC14 searched for a new impossible seed, and what he found was this, where you spawn on a ruined portal and a trial ruin at the bottom of the world that are covered by lava. And there is a small ledge to escape to, but even if you try and mine, you'll get nowhere because there's lava on all sides. And when you die and respawn, you'll be on a single block surrounded by lava, which if you break, you'll just respawn in the lava and get spawn killed. So you might be wondering, is this really it? Could this truly be an unbeatable seed? Well, the fact that you don't instantly get spawn killed when you load the seed means that there are hidden ways to beat this. Because within 24 hours of Dylan posting this seed, people had already found multiple ways to beat it. One of these ways was someone using the bonus chest to escape, and someone else used dozens of people to push each other to get to the water. But the first person who did it by themselves legitimately was a player named Elamordu201, who figured out a method to break 3 pieces of gravel right when he spawned, and used them to build a platform, which allowed him to lure an enderman and strategically kill it for an ender pearl. So it seems like the only true impossible seed is the one found by M33 Galaxy on Bedrock Edition, which I talked about in the previous episode, since on this seed there's nowhere to grab onto. And this actually still works on Bedrock Edition, even though I thought it didn't after the new update. So if someone records themselves beating this seed, I'd be very shocked, because there's truly nowhere to go. And now that we've seen this, let's move on to the next anomaly, which instead of being impossible to survive, makes it impossible to progress. Some Minecraft seeds are impossible to beat, not because they spawn kill you, but because the world contains a soft lock, meaning the game works fine, but you can't beat it. You might not know this, but before update 1.9, Minecraft worlds only had 3 strongholds each, and so seed finders from Minecraft at Home theorized that it was possible for a seed to exist where all 3 strongholds get overwritten by other structures, which would make it impossible to get to the end. And so they searched over 84 trillion seeds, and they found only 5 where this happens. If you load in any of these seeds on update 1.8.9, everything looks completely normal, but the problem arises when you try and beat the game, because every end portal is destroyed by an ocean monument, making it a speedrunner's nightmare. And if you're wondering, it's practically impossible for something like this to happen on modern versions, because for 128 strongholds to all be destroyed on the same world is an inconceivably low chance. But who knows, maybe that's an anomaly for another night. Imagine you're on a long mining trip, and you turn around a corner and suddenly find an entire village inside a dripstone cave. Found by Fragrant Result, this village has pathways going through the rocks and some of the most interesting world generation ever. This feels like a remote mountain village you'd find after many travels, and it's sort of a mini oasis in the rough mines. Something about it is very welcoming, like you can rest here after your long travels. And this actually isn't a cave at all, but more of a cavern, with holes that lead to the outside. And despite this being a very scenic location, I feel bad for the Iron Golem, since he'll be very busy protecting the village down here. Imagine you find a stronghold and start going down the staircase. At first, it's pretty normal, but as you follow the path, you suddenly see another staircase. This one is unusually long, but you don't think too much of it. But when you reach the bottom, you see yet another set of stairs. And the lower you keep going, the more stairs you find. Every time you reach a lower level, it just keeps going further down, almost as if the stronghold doesn't end. That's because this stronghold has the longest recorded staircase in history, bringing you down 8 separate flights of stairs to the ground floor. And it should come as no surprise that this was also found by Fragrant Result, who seems to be finding a lot of strange phenomena recently. You know those crazy seeds on Bedrock Edition where a bunch of structures generate on top of each other? Well, a seed finder called Epic10L2 wanted to find something similar, but for Java Edition. And what he found was this seed, which has a pillager outpost right at spawn, and right next to it is an igloo that's cut off by a ruined portal. And underneath all of this is a trial chamber that's almost connected to an ancient city. And of course, this isn't as crazy as Bedrock Edition, but just having this many structures in one location is extremely rare on Java, which makes this spawn point an interesting anomaly. But this seed also has a secret that Epic told me to mention in the video. But first, take a moment to look around and tell me if you can see it. So Epic said that if you look at this snow in the right way, it looks like Among Us. Honestly, I think it's a bit of a stretch, but let me know what you think in the comments, and if you managed to see it the first time. When you beat Minecraft, you'll know that an end gateway appears on the main end island to teleport you to the outer islands. But while you're exploring the outer islands, more end gateways can randomly generate throughout the world, allowing you to return to the main island. But because these gateways are randomly spread across the world, it means that in rare cases, you can find multiple at the same location. And Fragrant Result wanted to find the biggest cluster of gateways that generate together. And after using code to search, what he found was this seed, where if you travel hundreds of thousands of blocks away from 0, you'll find an abnormal concentration of gateways, where 4 generated right next to each other. And honestly, if I saw this randomly while traveling, I'd probably take it as a sign to turn back. Imagine you load up a seed and find yourself stranded on top of a flying igloo. Well, Fragrant Result found a seed with exactly this. This igloo reaches to Y237, and it's not connected to any blocks at all. This probably happened because of some floating terrain that's nearby, but honestly, the game didn't even try to hide this igloo, or the secret room under it. And imagine being a new player and seeing this. The sight of it is something to behold, and this seed definitely earns its place as one of the 7 wonders of Bedrock Edition. But now, let's head back to Java, because Fragrant Result found yet another flying anomaly. In the distant lands of the End Dimension, many strange things can happen, as we've already seen. But have you ever wondered what happens if 2 end cities generate too close to each other? Well, Fragrant Result wanted to know as well, and he ended up discovering a very strange anomaly on this seed, where 2 end cities are having a full-on war by sending their end ships to destroy each other. And it seems like the top ship is currently winning this battle, with the bottom one being half destroyed. And the crazy thing about this is that you'll find a naturally dropped elytra on the bottom ship, which is something that barely ever happens. In Minecraft, some woodland mansions can generate secret rooms that aren't connected to the rest of the mansion. And one of these secret rooms is the fake end portal room, where you can find a replica of the end portal made of wool. And the previous world record for the most portal rooms in a mansion was 5, found by DylanDC14 on this seed. However, recently, DamDuck ran a search of his own, and he managed to discover a seed with 6 fake end portals, making this the rarest mansion ever discovered, as DamDuck estimates that only about 1 in every 1.1 quadrillion chunks has a structure seed with a potential for a mansion and the conditions for 6 portal rooms. And this is even rarer when you consider that most chunks aren't even in the right biome and don't have the right conditions for this structure seed to generate, making this a truly one-of-a-kind anomaly. When generating terrain, one of the values Minecraft uses is called weirdness, which I know sounds weird, but this weirdness value affects the way that peaks and valleys generate. And if there's a high weirdness in an area of the world, it usually means there's a high steepness to the landscape, and it often causes lakes to appear. And this value is usually contained within a certain range, usually between 0.8 and -0.8. But on update 1.19 and Bedrock Edition, if the weirdness value becomes extreme, such as more than 1.8 or less than minus 1.8. It makes the world's surface height descend below the minimum world height, creating something known as a sinkhole. These massive holes go all the way down to lava level and are incredibly rare. However, several of these were found in the past, and so this was never included as an anomaly. That was until recently, when a seed finder called Zenith messaged me on Discord telling me that another seed finder called Jaro compiled a list of the largest sinkholes ever found. And of course, I want to show you the biggest one, which was found by Jaro himself on this seed, and you have to set it to large biomes for this to work. It's honestly crazy. Just imagine you were traveling on this lake without knowing about the sinkhole. It's almost creepy to think that you could just randomly come across this in your world. Remember how we talked about loot drops being seed dependent? Well, that goes for piglin barters as well. And of course, that means that Fragrant Result wanted to find the rarest barter in all of Minecraft. And after searching, he found it on this seed, where if you barter with a piglin, you'll get 5 consecutive soul speed books in a row. And since each one has about a 1.09% chance of dropping, it means that getting 5 of these consecutively is a 0.7015% chance. Just imagine being a speedrunner and getting a seed like this but for ender pearls. Everyone would think you're cheating. It's kind of crazy what can happen. Imagine you're mining and come across an ancient city. You decide to loot it, but the further you go in, the more you realize that it doesn't end. And on top of that, there's multiple central portals, indicating that this isn't just a normal ancient city. That's because this is actually 4 ancient cities that are connected to make a mega ancient city. And to my knowledge, this technically makes it the largest one of all time. Down here, there's endless corridors and danger at every turn. But there's also good loot for anyone willing to explore it. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's an entire stack of gapples down here with a number of chests around. And speaking of chest loot, this next anomaly is about a chest with some very unusual loot. There are millions of end cities within each Minecraft world, and since every chest is different, there are bound to be some with weird loot seeds. And thanks to Fragrant Result, we can see one of these, because on this seed, he found an end city chest that's entirely filled with iron ingots. And it's not like this is good loot or anything, it's just very rare, and you'd probably never come across this on your own. But it's funny that you'd have to travel over 100,000 blocks to find this chest, despite it having something you can easily get in the overworld. So just because something's rare doesn't always mean it's worth going to. Minecraft villages, just like other structures, are randomly generated, meaning that in rare cases, you can find the same types of building repeating within them. And for this anomaly, we're going to take a look at 2 unusual villages in particular, starting with this one, which is a village found by the seed finders Matt and Cortex, which somehow generated with 10 blacksmiths, giving it the world record for the most blacksmiths in a village. And the second village I want to show you is the most religious village, with the world record for the most churches, which was found by a player called Prophet on this seed. And while these may be the current records, with the amount of villages there are in Minecraft, there's probably other ones out there with even more repeating structures, somewhere in the depths of Minecraft. Remember how Dylan DC14 found a seed where you spawn in a stronghold on Java Edition? Well, Fragrant Result found one that works on Bedrock Edition, which spawns you in a ravine right on top of the stronghold. Sadly, you don't get the I Spy achievement when you spawn like on the Java seed, because for some weird reason, Bedrock Edition doesn't have achievements for each separate world. But the cool thing about this is that you'll always spawn in the same location, not like the Java seed where you'll have to try for hours to spawn on top of the stronghold because of the spawn radius. But either way, both of these are incredibly rare anomalies. I received a message from a seed finder named Zenith telling me about a seed with some of the rarest world generation ever discovered. This seed has a mountain range with 3 clearings, and inside 2 of these clearings are 2 mansions. This may not seem like the craziest thing, but the positioning of these mansions inside these clearings is so rare that it's never been seen before. And to find this, Zenith had to team up with another seed finder called Doogie8876, and they only found this after searching over a quadrillion seeds together. And you can make a whole backstory about these 2 mansions. It's like they're rival factions on opposite sides of the mountain. Feels like the plot of an anime or something. Earlier this month, a Discord user named 4Arch messaged me telling me about an unusual stronghold on a certain seed. If you travel to these coordinates, you'll find a strange island. The first thing you'll notice is that there's an exposed stronghold, which is already rare on its own, but when you enter it, you'll also find that it has a glitched end portal as well. And the story behind this is unique, because 4Arch found this seed from the complete seed list of 12i portals. And this seed list has 8.7 million seeds, by the way, so he thought that no one else would have found this one in particular. But a little while after he showed me it, he discovered that it was actually already previously found by another seed finder named Matt back in 2021. So it's kinda crazy that an anomaly on a seed was found by two separate people, because something like this has never happened before. Imagine you're traveling in a jungle when suddenly you come across a giant mansion covered in vines. As you explore, you notice that even the interiors are covered with foliage, giving the rooms a mossy appearance. This is probably the most ancient looking woodland mansion ever, and it looks like it was forgotten long ago. This was found last year by ExeRSolver. And what's crazy is that you spawn right on top of it on this seed, and you also get one of the best views looking down from the windows. As I was making this video, I got pinged on the Minecraft at Home Discord server to see an anomaly that seed finders had been working on for the past year. It turns out they were searching for a mushroom island that completely surrounds a normal island. This may sound simple, but the reason this had never been found before is because the continentalness value has to be very low for mushroom islands to generate. As you can see, typical mushroom islands are very isolated and surrounded by ocean with no land nearby. But a seed finder called ShowMe7 recently managed to find one that surrounds a smaller island. And when you look at this, it's crazy, because in all other instances, it's supposed to be a mushroom island surrounded by the ocean and other biomes, not the other way around. And standing on this little island and seeing yourself completely surrounded by mushroom fields is kind of unsettling in a way. Feels like you're the only survivor of an apocalypse that turned everything into fungus. And now, seed finders are searching for even bigger islands within mushroom rings, so I'll let you all know if any bigger ones get found. Remember how we talked about loot drops being seed dependent? Well, things like Wither Skeleton Skull drops are also included in that. And you might remember the previous record for the most Wither Skeleton Skulls dropped in a row was 5, found by a great seed finder called Matthew Boland. But it turns out another seed finder, Andrew, discovered a seed where when you kill 9 Wither Skeletons, they all drop their skulls consecutively. There's not much else to say about this anomaly, but if you want a speedrun making 3 Withers, then this might be the perfect seed for you. On Bedrock Edition, there's a strange phenomenon where structures can break bedrock. This can also happen on Java Edition, as we've seen in previous videos, but the difference with Bedrock Edition is that the bedrock is completely gone and the holes are much larger. So this anomaly is about 2 holes in particular that were found earlier this year and are abnormally large. The first was found by a seed finder called Cracked Magnet, who discovered a seed with an igloo that generated at the bottom of a lake. But the weirdest part is that the ladder is perfectly aligned with the end portal under the lake, and if you follow it down, you'll find the basement goes straight through to the void, creating a 7x9 hole in the bedrock. And theoretically, if you dug this out in survival, you could make a giant death pit that leads to the void. Now, despite this being a giant bedrock hole, I was wondering, can these get bigger? And if so, what's the biggest one of all time? So I asked around, and of course, it turns out ExeRSolver found the biggest one on this seed, where a giant ruined portal removed a huge chunk of bedrock, creating roughly a 14x16 hole. And this is insane, because on Java, you'd never find something like this, as the bedrock usually doesn't get destroyed, just replaced with netherrack. And the biggest true bedrock hole on Java Edition was a single piece of bedrock that was missing, which I talked about in the previous video. So it looks like this is why they call it Bedrock Edition. And the craziest thing about this seed is that if you respawn too often, you have a chance of being spawn killed by the void, making this the only seed that can do this. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see the previous 10 parts all together, click here. And that's all for now. Bye!